Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. And if you're tuning in for the first time and you're not familiar with us, I hope that you will be very familiar with us as of today. We are a Boston-based, fully producing internet radio station with all the bells and whistles. You can listen to us through your apps, online, in the cars, ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 radio, all those things, all those good things. And check us out, because if you go on Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7 radio.com, you'll see all the most glorious, as I say, hosts, radio hosts with podcasts, radio shows. Some of them are live, so they're radio shows, podcasts. You're usually doing that, producing it yourself, but I have to say we have quite a few of hosts that are looking to expand their listenership with their podcast, and you can hear more about that if you go on our station. All right, well, we are in the midst of a series. This is the second one of Love by Intuition with Biochemist Phil George. And if you'd like to hear the shows previously, just go on our site, as mentioned, and put in Phil George, and up will come everything about Phil. He has his own show, and that is actually every Wednesday, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and he has videos besides his show, so check that out. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most popular and misunderstood topics, cholesterol and statins. And I must say that Phil is a clinical biochemist. So a little bit about him. He has spent most of his adult life educating and helping clients live a healthier, more fulfilling life. He is a certified personal trainer as well as a health coach, and he does all kinds of things for outside the usual clientele. He's going into nursing homes, educating people there. So if you'd like to get in touch with him, you can email him at philgeorge, just as it sounds, at charter.net. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Phil.
Oh, great to be back, Deborah. It's always fun when we have our conversations.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agreed. So today about the cholesterol, and, I want to just say that it's hard for the average layperson to know what's right and what's wrong, or what they should do with their body or not, because you listen to your physician or your practitioner, and then you hear other information. But you I think a lot of people will fall back on the information the physician has shared because it's something that you've heard for the last 20 years. So what would you say to someone, how do they open their minds to new information and realize that that's the better choice to go? What would you say for that?
Right, Deborah. So what I found is I've given seminars all over. The Commonwealth of Mass hired me to give seminars to senior centers. So, and I've heard, what I'm finding, Deborah, is that people are becoming less and less enchanted with allopathic or Western medicine, and they're realizing maybe something's amiss here, because if you look in the last 50 years, we've really gone downhill. A lot of people don't know this, but we pay the most for any industrialized country for health insurance, but we have the worst outcomes. So we're paying the most for the worst. So, I mean, obviously something is amiss here. So one of the things that happened, just to let you know how the allopathic or the Western medical system works, is this. First of all, I don't know how it is in the rest of the country, but Massachusetts, everything is being eaten up by a couple of big hospitals, so they control everything. The other thing is most physicians are actually employees of the hospital. They're not independent contractors. In other words, they get a salary. Now, you know, Deborah, if you have employees, the employees have to do what you tell them to do, right, Deborah?
That's right.
So this, again, I'll give you an example. I have again, I come from a medical background. I have a lot of good friends that are physicians. Fortunately, almost everybody on my shows they're independent. They're not. They run their own practice. They're independent practitioners. But what happens? I have one physician. I'm not going to mention his name, but he basically was taken over by a big conglomerate. And the way HMOs work, Deborah, is you need a referral if you want to see a specialist, in other words. But most primary care doctors are employees of these big hospitals. So they said to him, look, we really want to take over your practice. You'll be the physician, but we want to take it over. And if you don't do that, we're not going to refer any more patients to you. So it's kind of like we're going to give you an offer you can't refuse. So he thought he'd give it a shot. Long story short, he didn't like it. Some MBA out of Harvard was going in there with no medical background, telling him he needs to see more patients, needs to do less procedures. He's not following standard of care. So he kind of got off that. So the way it works, Deborah, is, and I've also had a pharmacist on my show that actually teaches pharmacy at the Mass Pharmaceutical School, and she was saying, she calls it polypharmacy. So, Deborah, if the average patient walks in and their cholesterol, I don't know, let's pick a number, 250, 300, whatever that number is, that's automatic statin time. They don't talk about anything else, Deborah. They don't talk about exercise. They don't talk about diet. That's it. There's a statin for that. So that's what they do. And the reason they do it, Deborah, is let's say I walked in and my cholesterol was 300. And the doctor said, well, okay, let's look at this and let's see what's going on. I walk out and I have a heart attack, and my wife sues the doctor because he didn't prescribe this statin. If they brought 5 physicians onto the stand, they'd all say that they would have given me a statin. So that doctor is in bad shape. So in other words, there's no downside of them giving you the drug, but there's a big downside if they don't give you the drug, because if something happens, and plus it's a lot more expedient. They don't have to put you on a diet. They don't have to tell you to exercise. They only get 15 minutes, Deborah, right, with you, and that's it. It's in, it's out. There's an expression now, they call it diagnose and adios. Diagnose the problem, give you a drug, and get you the heck out of the next patient in line. So this is the way medicine is working right now, and I think anybody that's been around, if you had to see a doctor, even if you can see a doctor, you know, the long wait to have a colonoscopy, the medical system is overwhelmed with patients right now. They can't handle the workload that they have. So this is, and I don't blame the doctors. This is what they're told to do. They have somebody, if they don't do what they're told to do, don't follow the standard of care. In fact, Deborah, in California, if you don't follow the standard of care, whatever the state says it is, you could lose your medical license. So I don't blame physicians on this. Okay.
Yes, and I agree with you from what I've learned. And now we're seeing, just since the pandemic days, a lot, and I don't know what the percentage is, but there's quite a substantial amount of physicians that are leaving the HMO systems, and they're going in with other physicians and starting their own groups where they can control and see the patients as they choose to. And I believe that's going to be more of a, some of them are called boutique type of situation, but I think we're going to see more and more of that, because they do, and I'm one of them that goes to a small group like that. You need to pay on a monthly basis, but what you're saving is money and drugs and meds and different things. The tests that certain age, you reach a certain age and now you have to have the colonoscopy. You have to have high blood pressure meds. All these different things that is the norm for an HMO type of environment. So I wanted to ask you, have you seen more physicians starting up their own practice again, maybe with 3 or a half dozen other physicians?
Well, actually, Deborah, I have what you're talking about is called the concierge doctor.
Yes, it is.
And actually, I have a concierge doctor. I have to travel a little bit, half an hour. He's got a practice. It's 30 minutes. But he's gotten used to me. And just a word of warning, now you got to understand that even though it's a concierge doctor, they're still what they call allopathic, which means they're not necessarily functional medicine or holistic doctors. Because a lot of times functional medicine or holistic doctors, they're not covered by insurance, period, okay? So you've got to be, even though I agree with you, I highly recommend having that because at the very least, you can go in there. So with my doctor, he knows I'm a biochemist, so we have a really good relationship. He's a great guy. And I just tell him, this is what I want done. I want all these lab works done. This is why I want it done. But again, in medical school, a lot of people don't know it, but the average physician has had only one course in biochemistry. Okay, biochemistry is understanding what's causing the problem. In other words, when I have a client, I don't want to just throw a drug at them. I want to know what's called the root cause of the problem. In fact, I belong to a group called Root Cause Practitioners. So instead of, you want to know what's causing the problem, because even if you throw a drug at it, if you don't know what's causing the problem, you could just be coming back over and over again. And anybody will tell you that knows anything, there's always side effects with drugs. There's some kind of a side effect somewhere. It just depends on what side effect it is. If you ever watch these commercials, the last one they say, the last side effect is death. Death. So, in fact, I ran this on my show, Deborah. I ran all... This came out with this thing for, I don't know, for eczema or something, and it said, these are all this. Oh, no, it was. I did a whole show on depression, and at the very last thing, if your depression drug doesn't work, there's a second depression drug for it. Oh, and by the way, you could commit suicide, you could do this. The list of side effects was longer than with the benefits of it. So there's something called risk reward. So again, these are things you have to be aware of. So I like to say you got to be the CEO of your own health. You've got to do your research, or you have to contact somebody like me. And again, my email address is philgeorge@charter.net. I get emails all the time. I get people emailing me their lab work. I can decipher the lab work for them, tell them what it means. In fact, you and I were speaking before the year, and your cholesterol. And Deborah, if you ever want to send me all your lab work, you and I can have a conversation, and I can interpret that for you.
That's good to know.
That's one of the things I do. The other thing I do with clients is I also let them know what kind of lab work they need done that the doctor's probably not going to order. But let me just jump back on. To cholesterol. So there's something in statistics. It's called a bathtub-shaped graph. And if you can imagine a bathtub, Deborah. At the top it's high, right? And then it goes slowly down, slopes down. And there's a very long line at the bottom, right there, but then it goes back up again, right? This is the way the risk of cholesterol goes. If it's very low, you have a higher risk of dying for any reason. If it's very high, you've got a risk of dying for any reasons. But in the middle, you have the huge sweet spot. So it's not cholesterol. Cholesterol is not the problem. In fact, what happens is you make 75% to 80% of the cholesterol yourself. It's called endogenously inside your body. So if you don't eat it, your body's going to make it. That's how important cholesterol. Cholesterol is in every single cell of your body. If you don't have cholesterol, you're going to die. You have to have cholesterol. It's essential. Your brain is made up of 25% cholesterol. So your brain is mostly made up of cholesterol. So Deborah, if somebody calls you a fathead, say thank you, okay?
Or now I can think that my brain is just supreme.
There you go. So, again, it makes up a significant component of your brain. It's crucial for brain functions. It's essential for the formation and maintenance of cell membranes inside your head. The production of myelin. What myelin is, basically around, if you have an electrical wire, right, Deborah, you have coating around there, right, so the electricity doesn't come out of the wire. That's what you have in your electrons. It's called the myelin sheath. That myelin sheath is made of cholesterol. So if you don't have enough of that, you're gonna have your brain, misfiring, because it's going to be going all over the place. So in actuality, the food you're eating is only contributing to about 20 to 25% of the cholesterol in your body. Okay. So what you're eating really, in terms of fat, they tell you, saturated fat is bad. That's not correct. What causes fat actually is sugar. Okay, sugar causes the bad fat. It's not the fat you're eating. So that's another big misconception. So cholesterol. So we kind of get that out of the way. So cholesterol is not the problem. Okay, they've done again many studies on this. And you probably heard, Deborah, of the two other, they call it cholesterol, which is LDL and HDL. Does that sound familiar, Deborah?
Yes, and that's where avocados come in, because they have a lot of fat, but it is good fat. Exactly.
They have a monounsaturated fat, like olive oil. That's exactly right. So what happens is, do you remember, so HDL, LDL, so do you remember what they call LDL cholesterol, Deborah?
No.
Okay, they call it the bad cholesterol. LDL, they call it the bad. And they call HDL the good. Okay?
Right.
So actually calling LDL and HDL is actually a misnomer. It's an incorrect term. It's actually not cholesterol. What it is something called, little fancy word here, it's called a lipoprotein. And all that means, Deborah, is what LDL and HDL, it's like a little boat. And what it does is it stores cholesterol, HDL, and vitamins and minerals inside of it. And it's like a boat, and it travels all over your bloodstream. So HDL and LDL is really a lipoprotein. It just means it's like a boat. And what it does, the little boat goes all over your body, and it travels to all the different cells in your body, and it drops off HDL, it drops off cholesterol, vitamins, nutrients. So it's kind of like a shuttle boat that goes all over the place. So the reason they're calling LDL the bad cholesterol, again, it's not cholesterol, it's a lipoprotein, is because there is what they call a correlation, which means they find out people with high LDLs, they have a higher incidence of arteriosclerosis or coronary artery disease. Okay. The thing about there's an expression in statistics which is well known. Correlation doesn't prove causation, because two things are related doesn't mean one causes the other one. The example they use a lot of times: if you were an alien from outer space with a flying saucer and you came down and you saw all of these car accidents, but every time there's a car accident, there's a lot of ambulances around, you may think that the ambulance are causing the car accidents. Okay. Which obviously they're not. But those two are correlated, but one doesn't cause the other one. When I do seminars, I give multiple studies and the correlation. One of them says that the people in Maine that eat the most amount of margarine have the highest divorce rate. There's a definite parallel lines. Obviously, that's not the case. There was something that people, I don't know. There's when they do a space launch, there's more suicides. There's all kinds of crazy correlations like that, but one doesn't cause the other one. Does that make sense, Deborah?
Sure.
Okay. So the whole thing is they found out. The other thing is, Deborah, when they do what's called a lipid profile on you, they're going to do a total cholesterol, they're going to do an LDL and an HDL, and they'll probably do a triglyceride. Triglycerides are troublesome. That's the particular actually it is a form of cholesterol. That's a particular cholesterol that causes a lot of problems. But they're fixated on the LDL. Because again, that's what they were taught in medical school. So they're fixated on the LDL. And again, I'm not a lipidologist, okay, but I know a lot about them. If you want to email me, I can send you tons and tons of studies from lipidologists that say the same thing I'm saying right now. So it's not the LDL. But Deborah, the other issue is there are two types of LDL. There's LDL-A and there's LDL-B, okay? So this is easy to remember. LDL-A is the good LDL, and LDL-B is the bad LDL. So LDL-B is the bad. And this is the reason why. And again, this isn't 100% either, because there's a lot of confounding factors with this. So LDL-A, if you can imagine basically LDL-A as being a big fluffy ball, okay? And LDL-B as being a little tiny BB, okay? So those are the two. One is big and fluffy, and the other one is a tiny little BB. So what happens? Okay, Deborah. So you and I are going to be playing paintball, okay? You know, with the guns things, we're shooting at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have a gun with a big fluffy things coming out of it. So let's start with this. So we're going to have like a paintball fight, you know, with those guns where they shoot out like these little pellets.
Correct. And the Nerf ball. Yeah,
okay.
We heard that.
I'm shooting a gun at you with a big fluffy Nerf ball. It goes against you. Do you think that's going to hurt very much?
No.
Okay. But let's say I have a gun with a BB in it and I shoot it at you. Do you think that's going to hurt?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So the LDL-A is the big fluffy, okay, and the LDL-B is the BB. So you have inside of your artery something called endothelial cells, okay? And not to get too technical, above the endothelial cells is something called the glycocalyx, big fancy word. All that means is, you know, Deborah, when you have a frying pan, right, and you have Teflon over it, even though Teflon's not bad, let's imagine a healthy cooking surface. So as long as you use that plastic spatula, right, on the Teflon, you don't scratch it, everything will be fine, right?
Right.
Okay. But what happens if you start using a metal and you start scratching it, right? You start breaking the surface. Now if you cook an egg on it, that egg is going to stick to that surface, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So what happens with these little LDLB particles, these little BBs, inside of your endothelial cells and your glycocalyx, they damage that. They break it. So imagine that glycocalyx like a soft Teflon coating on there that protects it. So when the big LDL-A particles, the big Nerf balls go into there, no problem. They just bounce off there. They don't damage the glycocalyx. Everything is hunky-dory. But when those little LDL-B particles go in, those little BBs, and they hit that glycocalyx, that Teflon coating, it damages it. And then it damages it, and eventually it's going to wear away that Teflon coating or that glycocalyx, and the only thing that's left there is what they call the endothelial cells, the inner lining. It's like the base metal of the frying pan.
Okay.
Then what happens?
If I may hold that thought, we're going to take a first break. We need to. Everyone stay with us. We'll be back with the Teflon pan.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seekonk Family Chiropractic in Seekonk, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and this is a live show, the Love by Intuition show. You can be heard every Tuesday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. normally. We are here at 3 p.m., a special time because we're doing a series with Phil George. If you would like to get in touch with him, you can go on his site, wellnesswave.net. It's just the way it sounds, wellnesswave.net. And you can send him an email directly, philgeorge@charter.net. And if you'd like to call in now, our number is 833-220-1200. Bob is in the house. He will put you right through to us live. Again, 833-220-1200. Now, before the break, Phil was explaining about there are 2 kinds of LDL, A and B, and one is good and the other one is not. And he was shooting a Nerf ball and not harming anything, but then he was off to do the BB gun. So go from there, Phil.
Okay. So I just want to clarify one thing. And now there's even, and again, I study this all the time. I mean, I'm crazy. I get up early hours in the morning. I get to subscribe to all these journals. There's also another theory that maybe even the LDL-B isn't that bad. It just depends on the LDL-B. So I just want to, for all the lipidologists out there, they're going to yell at me. there is a little caveat there. But let's just make it for broad terms. The LDL-B in general, for most people, for vast majority of people, are bad. And so what happens, Deborah, so again, the analogy of this glycocalyx, which is Teflon around, around the arteries. So what happens, you keep hitting that BB on it over and over again, you're going to break it down, just like you're scraping off the Teflon from the pan. Then when you cook the egg on the pan, instead of the egg sliding off, now the egg starts sticking to the pan. So think about that with your arteries. So there's no more glycocalyx, again, which is the Teflon, and now it's stuck to your arteries. When that happens, a lot of people don't realize, but cholesterol is involved in wound healing. It's kind of like spattle you put on there, to make it smooth again. So your body's sending cholesterol in there to clean it up. And again, this is where a lot of physicians get confused. They think because there's cholesterol in there, the cholesterol is causing the problem. Remember the old statistics. correlation doesn't prove causation because two things are related. The cholesterol is just trying to heal your arteries. So then what happens is the cholesterol gets in the artery because your glycocalyx, the Teflon, is broken away, gets stuck in there. Then what happens is you have white cells that go in, your immune system. They're called macrophages. Macro means big, phage means eat. So the macrophages go in there and they try to, again, clean things up. They think there's an infection. They don't know what's going on with your arteries, with your endothelial cells. So they go in there and those white cells get stuck. And they can't get out because they get stuck in the cholesterol. Those form something called foam cells. In other words, they die in there, and you got a clot forming, Deborah. You see what I'm going with this? You got a clot forming. You got cholesterol. You got macrophages that die in there because they can't escape, and they turn into foam cells. So the foam cells are the beginning of arteriosclerosis. Okay, that's the beginning. But then you're into it. And what causes that, and basically, is a bad diet, and it's almost always to do with in terms of a high carbohydrate diet. In other words, high carbohydrate diet it produces something called insulin resistance. So it's not the sugar that does it. Your cells become resistant to insulin, and it doesn't work very well. So a bad diet is really what's causing it, which is mostly to do with in terms of they call it the SAD diet, the Standard American Diet, because it has a lot of junk. You're eating a lot of junk food and stuff like that. So that's really what's causing the problem. The problem is not you eating a lot of eggs. The problem, remember that thing for a while, Deborah? The eggs are bad for you. Remember that because they're high in cholesterol.
Well, that was something I was going to ask you from your perspective because I've read that organic eggs still have cholesterol, but less than the normal egg.
But remember, we got to go back to point 101. Cholesterol is not the enemy. Cholesterol is your friend.
Right.
And remember, 80% of all the cholesterol is made by your body. Only 20% is out there. And most of the cholesterol you take in is passed out in your stool. So it's not the cholesterol. It's not the cholesterol you're taking in. It's the sugar that's causing. It's not even building up the cholesterol. It's the sugar. It's building up the damage to your endothelial cells in your arteries. So
yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but from your perspective, is there less cholesterol in eggs that are organic?
I have no idea, and I don't care.
Okay.
I couldn't care less.
Okay. No, well, there are integrative physicians that believe that is true, and I was just curious from your perspective.
They believe that whether it's true or not, they actually believe that cholesterol causes heart problems.
No, that organic eggs have less cholesterol than regular eggs. That's what they believe.
Oh, they may, but again, I eat free range eggs from free range chickens because it's much healthier for me.
Right. I do too.
I don't even take into account the cholesterol because as you know, what happens with the yolk, you have a lot more omega-3s in there. And eggs basically are the healthiest food on the planet. But just another caveat here is some people have an allergy to eggs. So you have to if eggs don't sit well with you, then don't eat them. But for the vast majority of people, I eat eggs every day, Deborah. I eat eggs and bacon, and I get bacon from happy pigs that are running in the field and stuff. They're not in a little thing. So I eat eggs and bacon every other day or so. So it's not. And
I eat an egg every day, and I love it.
No.
So I'm not. But yet, you hear all these things. But go on and explain, because then what you're explaining is excellent, so that the average person can understand that it isn't the egg that's doing you harm; it's the LDL.
It's actually the LDLB. But
yes,
it's what I do. I have. In fact, while we're talking, I have my whole seminar slide presentation in front of me. Okay. So what I do. Okay, good example. People come to me all the time. In fact, listeners, if you want to email me, philgeorge@charter.net, you can send me over your lab work, and I'll interpret it for you in terms of your lipid profile. And if they haven't ordered certain tests, I'll have you suggest that they order it. Because, again, doctors are going to give you statin the very first, when they see that cholesterol above a certain number. I'm going to jump into statins real quick. Why you don't want to take statins? One thing is, and I've given, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of seminars, and I run across the same people over and over again. This gets a little bit into advanced biochemistry, but I'll try to make it understandable. So most people know, they learned in high school biology, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So what happens inside the mitochondria, you have something called the electron transport chain, and that's something that makes ATP. ATP is as the energy molecule. Without ATP, you're dead. In other words, you need ATP. If you don't get ATP, you're dead. People that have no energy, they're low energy, they're not making enough ATP. So if you can imagine basically a little assembly line of this electron transport chain inside the mitochondria. So there's four stations there, okay? And it has to go from station 1 to station 2 to station 3 to station 4. Anywhere along the line, they get messed up. You're not making enough ATP because you're not transferring. You're not transferring the right electrons from point A to point B. So what happens, what a statin does, in addition to reducing your cholesterol and your LDL, it messes up station 1 in the electron transport chain. And one of the parts of the electron transport chain is there's a molecule called ubiquinone. And most people know that as CoQ10. You see CoQ10 all over the place. Unfortunately, most physicians do not tell their patients to take the CoQ10 along with the statin. And the statin decreases the CoQ10. You can't make enough energy. You get muscle aches. Your brain's not working. You kind of all kinds of problems with that. So when I have clients simply go on CoQ10, even if you decide you want to stay on the statin, like I don't give medical advice. You want to stay on the statin, just take the CoQ10. The doctor should tell you that, because this is biology 101. This isn't even that complicated. So, and again, doctors only had one course in biochemistry anyway, so I don't know if they remember that or not. But that's you want CoQ10. If you're taking a statin, you want a form of CoQ10 called ubiquinol. And you've got to be careful where you get your supplements, because a lot of them are made in China, India, and they can have very poor quality control. Email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I have a very specific supplement company I go by. I curate their supplements, and they curate the supplements. So you can get all the supplements through me, and I'll give you a free consult, too, in terms of different supplements you want to take. So that's the reason why, basically, again, if you're taking a statin, you want to take this CoQ10. But even without that issue, there's two other major problems with statins. One of them, there's an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, and there's also an increased risk of Alzheimer's, okay? So you've got to be careful with this stuff. I like to get people off statins if I can, and there's ways of doing that. And again, if you're just looking at your cholesterol, that is that's a meaningless number. So I want to jump into numbers that you can actually use on your own to give you a better idea if you're running into problems or not. Okay, so the easiest one to do is when they order a lipid profile on you, they're going to order a total cholesterol, or they're going to order an HDL, and they're going to order an HDL, and they're going to order a triglyceride. This is standard of care. They should order this all the time. Mm-hmm. And I've done hundreds of patients on this, and they didn't even have to start the statin to begin with. Again, this is not medical advice. This is what I would do if I were you. So I had a woman on my show. She's my dental hygienist. Her name is Wendy. Great woman. Does all her own research, and she doesn't like taking drugs. She's freaking out. She says, "My doctor wants to put me on a statin. Will you meet with me?" So I met with Wendy, and she brought in all her lab work. And actually, I sat down with her, and I went through my whole slide presentation, so she understood it. It wasn't just I'm telling her what to do. She understood the mechanism of action, understood the biochemistry behind this, okay? So what I sat down with Wendy, and I looked at her. So guys at home listening, when you get that, go look up your own lab work and pull up your triglycerides and your HDL. So usually the triglyceride is a higher number and the HDL is a lower number. So you divide the HDL into the triglyceride. Ratio is less than 2, you're in great shape. That means, and I'll get into what HDL does in a second. Triglyceride is not a good lipid. So if that number is less than 2, you're great. Wendy's was almost 1 for 1. So I said, Wendy, you're in phenomenal shape. I mean, this is fantastic. So if you again divide the HDL into the triglyceride, and you're in great shape. If it's over 2 to 3, so above that, maybe we need to change your diet. So that's a simple that's a simple calculation or simple metric that you can do to see what's going on. So that's something you can do. Okay. What happens? The reason they call the HDL the good LDL is what HDL does, and the reason you want your HDL to be as high as possible. What the HDL does, Deborah, it goes into your arteries and it actually takes out all the bad LDL and the cholesterol. It takes it out. It goes into kind of like a Pac-Man, right? And it munches it up and it takes it out. So that's why you want an HDL. Drug companies have been trying to make a drug to increase the HDL forever, and they can't do it. If they could, that would be the holy grail. Because a high HDL is a really good thing to have. And the way you get that is by going again a kind of a ketogenic type of diet, a paleo type of diet, low glycemic foods, things that don't raise your insulin. So that's kind of a heuristic that you can use to basically figure that out. Does that make sense, Deborah?
Yes, and this is a good time to have another break, and this is our last one, so everyone stay with us. You don't want to miss any more information. Back in a moment.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and we are talking with Phil George, and we are also speaking on a topic of cholesterol and statins. So when you were talking about Wendy, it brings up another thought in my mind that everybody's body doesn't function the same. And somehow when they go to medical school, they learn about X, Y, and Z, and they put everyone in that box. Whereas that person it may be known for them that their cholesterol is high, but their HDL is doing great, and so that person is fine. But seems to be that some physicians will automatically put you on a statin because of that, not realizing, and it's just because they don't have the chemistry background, correct?
Right. Well, again, this is it's my opinion that basically a lot of this is driven by drug companies. Obviously, it's also a lot of pharmaceutical companies, I think, are the largest donation to politicians, and politicians, they kind of make the rules, and it kind of floats downhill. So the doctors are only really being told what they were taught and what to do. And again, vast majority of physicians now are employees, so they have to do what they're told to do. I don't blame doctors, but they don't have the time. This is simple. And this is standard of care, and I believe statins are the largest prescribed drugs in it could be wrong, but it's one of the top in the world. Wow. So I mean, it's a huge money maker. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, most physicians, they treat numbers. Okay, they don't treat patients. Humans. Exactly. So what they do is, granted, your LDL is going to go down with the statin. Your cholesterol is going to go down with the statin, but you're increasing your risk of type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and you're going to get a lot of aches and pains because, again, this is messing up your biochemistry. It's messing up your biochemistry. But let me just jump in because for the listeners. What most doctors are going to look at, I gave you the one heuristic, or the simple method, is the triglyceride divided by the HDL. I like that one a lot better. What most doctors do is they take cholesterol divided by HDL. Okay, it's the same formula. I don't like that because cholesterol, again, doesn't mean anything. It's the triglycerides, the more dangerous of the two. But even if you want to go by that heuristic, they're saying if you divide your HDL into cholesterol, what happens? Very good. They say that number is less than 3.5 to 1. In other words, one part of the HDL to the 3.5 of that. A good is 1 to 5, and the high cholesterol is and one cholesterol is greater than 1 to 5. So if you want to use that number, so maybe either way you'll be out of the woods. You know what I mean? So if your doctor wants to throw you on a cholesterol, and again, feel free to email me, Phil George. I can actually send you this chart, and you can show it to your doctor. This is what most physicians use. They should use. A lot of them don't even use this. They just see the cholesterol and they throw you on the statin. But this is a good one. Also, you can do the triglyceride to HDL, the triglyceride to the HDL number, whichever one works for you. But you have to be an advocate for your own health. You have to go in there. And again, I have a concierge doctor. He knows me. He knows I'm a biochemist. I just tell him what I want, and he just does it for me. What I'll do with clients a lot of times, I will literally, because most people don't know how to read studies. Doctors do. Hopefully they do. And I will give you the study by a well-known, a journal or whatever, and show it to them. Because again, Deborah, doctors are working a ton of hours. They're going home to their family. They're not going home and reading research papers. I can guarantee you that. But I am. I'm reading research papers. I'm reading the latest research papers. I spend a fortune on journals to keep up to date on the latest stuff. I have trusted sources that I know I can trust. It's not a drug company. I know how to read studies, and that's my background. But again, going back, do you want to interject?
Well, I was just going to agreed what you're saying, and then so really what is the issue as far as the food intake is the sugar carbs that turn into sugar.
Right. Again, these are high glycemic carbs, not, broccoli and stuff, because vegetables, a lot of people don't know vegetables are carbs too.
Right.
They're basically, they're metabolized entirely differently. But, donuts, this, that, bagels, all that stuff is it's contributing. And the latest theory they have now is really the root cause of all disease is this mitochondrial dysfunction I talked about. It's due to a standard American diet. The very high carb, high glycemic index, high glycemic load, breads, all that stuff. It drives it through this. So I want to get on a relatively low carb diet.
Right.
Just another thing about doctors treating numbers. I can send you. I actually had some cute YouTube videos on this. So remember we talked before about so you go in, Deborah, and your HD and your LDL is this, and they turn you on a statin, your cholesterol is this. And they say, oh, great, Deborah, we got your LDL down X amount of points, and everything is wonderful, and, and the sun is shining. There's a guy out of Harvard. He's a researcher. His name is Nick Norowitz. He's all over YouTube. And then there's another, there's an orthopedic surgeon on there also, Sean Baker. And they did a study probably a month ago. And they because they understand these are biochemists. They understand the biochemistry, and they knew what the outcome was going to be before they did the study. So what they did a study, Deborah, and they had one person, and they started off with LDL of whatever, high LDL, and they put them on a statin, and they had another group, and they fed them Oreo cookies, Deborah. They fed them Oreo cookies. Which group do you think lowered the LDL more? The Oreo cookie group.
Really?
So, Deborah, if I was just looking to treat your numbers, I'd say, Deborah, go out and buy yourself a ton of Oreo cookies. Right?
Right, yeah.
I actually have YouTubes on this. These guys are heavy-duty researchers. These aren't some wackos. These are heavy-duty researchers. And there's a thing called lean mass hyperresponders. These are people that are in really good shape. They work out, they do all this stuff, and their LDL is astronomical. But there's something called a calcium artery score. It's what they do on your carotid arteries, which is your arteries right by your neck over there, and that's where you wind up getting strokes and stuff like that, and heart attacks. And when they put you into this CAT scan machine, and they can see how much plaque you have in these carotid arteries. And if you have too much plaque, then what they do is they go in there like with a rotor-rooter and they clean them out. So, and a lot of people don't even know they have this plaque until they actually have a stroke or a heart attack, because it's kind of like, Deborah, it's kind of like, your pipes in your house where you turn the water on, it gets less and less water, you get calcification or in your shower, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So, same with your arteries. You may not even know you're getting calcification until you have a stroke. So it doesn't, you have no symptoms. You have no symptoms. So what you want to do is you want to prevent it before it happens. So again, what happened is they've done this study, and they found that eating Oreo cookies over X amount of time will actually lower your LDL more. You should tell your doctor how you see what he says. Yeah, doctor, should I get on the Oreo cookie diet? People would love that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, not everyone, but but yet sugar, any way you look at it, sugar is not friendly to the body.
No, it's not good, but I'm saying, but it does have this perverse way of lowering your LDL. So again, that's why I'm saying you can't treat numbers. You got to treat the patient. You got to treat what's happening. You can't just, because they throw all kinds of drugs at you, but the problem is, the drugs are going to cause side effects. So why don't we go to the root? Why don't we go to the root cause of the problem, and fix the problem before you wind up with atherosclerosis and coronary artery disease. Mm-hmm. So one of the slides I'm looking at now in my presentation, I got a scale with like a fulcrum. A fulcrum is just a triangle thing. Side, I got a plate with one set of LDL particles, and I have a plate other side with LDL particles. And it says on the slide, two people can have the same identical LDL cholesterol particles, not cholesterol, it's a lipoprotein, but have very different LDL particle and risk. So you can see on the left, Deborah, I'm looking at big fluffy, right, our big Nerf particles, right? And on the right, I see our little BB particles. So you and I can have that same identical LDL lipoproteins, okay, and we can have entirely different risks. You could be through the roof. I have a slide further down where I have a bunch of people sitting there. Let me see if I can go back and find it. I'm looking at it. Now, anyway, it shows, Mary Jane has got this amount of LDL. And you got 12 different people with all different amounts of LDL particles and entirely different risk profile, because one of them is the little BBs, the B pattern. In fact, a lot of times you'll hear from a lipidologist or doctors, it's the same thing, they call it pattern A or pattern B. And that just means LDL A or LDL B. But a lot of times, so don't let that confuse you, where they say, pattern A or pattern B.
Yes. Phil, we have just 1 minute left. What would you like to leave the listeners with in this last minute?
Okay, one thing I'd like to bring out to people, anybody out there, just like you, I have call-in guests. If you want to come on my TV show, and again, it's going to be on Dream Vision, and you want to promote your business, your practice, your doctor, dentist, whatever, or you just want to share your story, I'd love to have you on the air. I like to have regular people on the air, how they maybe got over their disease, over their particular health challenges, or you want to promote your practice. I've had Kristen on many times. I have a lot of vibrational people on the show. So anybody who wants to come on my show and get on the show, I'd love to have you. Or if you want to shoot me over your lab work or any questions, just email me, philgeorge@charter.net. And again, anybody wants, maybe for our next month when we do our show, if anybody wants me to cover a particular topic with Deborah, let me know. We'll or send in questions to Deborah, and I can answer a bunch of questions on the next show. Ask me anything.
Yes, and that's philgeorge@charter.net. And then Deborah is DEBORAH at dreamvisions, 7radio.com. I want to thank you so much for coming on, and everyone, next month will be number 3 series with Phil, so don't miss that. Keep track by going on the site and Love by Intuition. And for everyone out there, share this with your family, with friends. Listen to it again, because it's information that you will need to hear maybe a few times. And until the next time we come together in unity consciousness, au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week, all designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.